Hey there, hi, this is a painting I made in October of 2022, and today I'm going to sort of talk you through some of the decisions and thought processes that went into putting it together. If you're not familiar with my work, the little cartoon fellow here is a character of mine, a dragon named Junebug, and I've been drawing comics about him for a couple of years now. If you'd like to take a look at those, there's a link in the description along with a list of my art supplies. If you enjoy what I do and would like to support it and me, I'll also put a link to my Patreon down there. Paintings are always learning opportunities, and the main experiment in this one was just avoiding using Junebug's local color. He's basically a straight out of the tube Cerulean Blue, and up to this point that's the color I've always painted him. Even when I started trying to stick to a planned color scheme, I would build the scheme around Cerulean Blue, just to be sure I'd have it. That's pretty limiting, so I made the decision for this painting to cut it out and go for something more autumnal, which ended up being a much duller and warmer blue, mostly cerulean mixed with a good amount of raw sienna. Most paintings go through an ugly phase, a period where enough pigment has been put down for the image to be readable, but not enough to look, like, good. The ugly phase of this piece was pretty bad for me, and the thought crossed my mind a few times that it was already ruined. The washes dried too splotchy or were laid down too dark. Watercolor can be a shockingly forgiving medium though, and by the end of the process, none of the things that seemed like problems at this point actually turned out to be. In the midst of it, you just have to trust that it will all come together in the end, and you'll usually be right. In my experience, it's actually pretty difficult to ruin a painting this early on. I'm using a toned tan watercolor paper here from, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, Hahnemühle. I love the color and the texture, but something about the absorbency is different from what I'm used to, having previously worked on Arch's 300-pound paper. You can see me struggling here to darken Junebug's chin, with my brush picking up color where I'm wanting to pull the edge of a pool I've already laid down. It can be just a little frustrating, but I really tend to like the unexpected textures that arise from my paints acting unpredictably. To build layers of shade on Junebug's flesh tone, starting around the third wash, I start adding increasing amounts of Prussian Blue to the color I used for the initial wash. Prussian Blue is a very intense pigment, and even a slight amount can have a significant impact on the color it's added to. A layer or two later, when I'm working in smaller areas of deeper shadow, I also start adding Cadmium Red Deep Hue to push the shadows into being slightly purple. The leaf was the most stressful part of this painting for me, as the patterns of color on a leaf can be pretty complex. I probably should have painted a study or two before doing this, but I just sort of jumped straight into it. I just worked on darkening and enriching the colors on the leaf, radiating outward from the bottom and roughly following the pattern of veins. Here my heart sank a bit. The red was too rich, and putting stark red veins against the yellow part of the leaf just looked hideous and unconvincing. I took a break and thought about it, which I've edited out here, and decided to do a wash of orange over some of the yellow to bring it closer to the color of the veins. That did the trick, and the leaf was saved. Later in the painting, I'll come back and define the veins even more. The pale buff color I've used for Junebug's horns and scarf was produced by mixing Cerulean Blue with raw Sienna. Cerulean is an interesting color to mix with others. It often gives you sort of a pastel version of the color produced. ladybug's irises are sort of a honey color, painted with pretty much straight from the tube raw sienna on the brightest part and layered over with sepia and maybe a little Prussian blue to produce the shadows. When drawing leaves, I try to pay attention to where the veins point to on the outline of the leaf and acknowledge them. It helps the leaf feel like a solid three-dimensional object.